Shocking truths I've learned as a vegan after 8 years. Guys, what's up? Fraser Bayley here from VegUp, vegan plant-based nutritionist. Been in the game for a while now, and I want to share some amazing, interesting truths that I've observed in my own experience having been vegan for 8 years. Some of the results, some of the things that I've noticed that were really amazing or inspiring for me personally, and I want to share that with you and then give you a couple of little takeaways from each point that you can go away and implement in your own life to potentially see the same results, or at least start the process. Now, number one, the first thing that I noticed was a huge reduction in my need to take naps. Now, what I mean by this, guys, is when I was in my 20s, before I was vegan, I would have to take a nap almost every day just to function. Lauren will confirm for you that is the truth. And if I didn't take a nap, by 5 p.m., I was done. I was completely done. And especially now as a father to a cyclone of a 3.5-year-old, I cannot afford to do that. So for me, getting in this type of shape and improving these metrics where my energy levels increased, my oxidative stress and inflammation and stress responses in the body obviously came down tremendously to the point where I didn't need to take a nap to just function. And so a huge win for me and a huge bonus in my own life was to get to a place where I don't need this anymore to operate. Whereas if I want one, great, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with taking the odd nap if that's something that you enjoy and you don't literally need it to function and it's taking a huge chunk out of your day. But think about this, I was taking, if I was doing one every day, that's 1 to 2 hours every day. That's at least 7 to 14 hours per week that I was taking naps. What could I do with all that time in terms of business, helping students, helping you guys, doing this content, playing with Zia, spending time with Lauren, exploring, traveling, all these other things that I wasn't able to do accumulatively because I was losing time in this area. So it's really been able, this beautiful reclaim of time, but not sacrificing energy and cognition and operation in doing that. And I think if I could give you one tip, one of the reasons why I think this happened was because as a byproduct of me going vegan and then becoming more and more conscious about a whole food plant-based diet, I started to look at more nutrient diversity. Like I've said, eat the rainbow, eat different colored fruits, eat different colored vegetables. Those things are representative of different micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals. And so because of that, I think I got a lot more nutrition into my system that helps with oxidative stress, recovery, cell regeneration, cell turnover, cell senescence, all these different things that help with metabolic processes in the body. And as a byproduct of that, you generate more energy without needing to recover or sleep quite as much, especially if it's a nap during the day. So if I could tell you anything, whole food plant-based, focus on colors, nutrient density, micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, not just protein and calories. I think this transferred over to better recovery, like I said, and that was representative in my need to not take so many naps, or even naps at all anymore. The number two thing that I noticed was a massive improvement in my lipid profiles. Now, lipid profiles are your cholesterol, your LDL, your VLDL, your HDL cholesterol, your good and your bad, and your triglycerides as well. I noticed, guys, dramatic improvements in those metrics. When I was in my 20s, while I was eating a lot of animal-based products, my total cholesterol was over 200, which is very high. My small particle LDL cholesterol was also very high, which is not good. And my triglycerides, which is fat circulating in your bloodstream, that was also very high, which is not good. All of these things contribute to essentially atherosclerosis long-term. So plaque buildup, calcium buildup in your cardiovascular system, which eventually, potentially can lead to heart attacks, strokes, that type of thing. Reduction of lifespan. One key marker that I noticed that was also slightly elevated before I went vegan was my C Reactive Protein levels. If you don't know what your C Reactive Protein levels are, you need to make sure that you're getting that metric done by your doctor. A lot of doctors will not run C Reactive Protein levels. I don't know why. It is a very useful marker to be aware of your likelihood of having a cardiovascular event, meaning a stroke or a heart attack. And so Usually they'll say anything below 5 is, anything within like 3 to 5 is some degree of risk. I personally think, based on all the information I've seen and all the knowledge that I've accumulated, you want to get it below 1. I'm telling you now, your dietary choices will massively dictate this variable. I noticed, like I said, my C Reactive Protein levels were in the 3 range. My total cholesterol was over 200. I don't even remember what my triglycerides were, but they were very high as well. My cholesterol is now down around 100. My VLDL, the small particle LDL, which is the not so good stuff, is very low. My HDL is above normal ranges and optimal ranges. My triglycerides are well within normal ranges. And my C Reactive Protein levels, the one marker that is is representative of if you will have some type of heart attack or stroke, is below 1. And all I did, guys, was remove all the animal products from my diet and opted for a predominantly whole food, plant-based diet. I'm telling you, people will say dietary cholesterol doesn't affect cholesterol in the bloodstream. Hands down, I've seen, not just in my own blood work, but in many students' blood work, that it dramatically improves with the elimination of animal products. So that was just my observation, not just in myself, but in many other people as well. So I just want to share that with you, because that's a beautiful thing, guys. Just the fact that you can remove animal products and go for a predominantly, if not 100% whole food plant-based diet, not just a vegan diet, but a whole food plant-based diet, you can dramatically increase your lifespan and dramatically reduce your chances of having a cardiovascular event. The number 3 point that I learned, and this was an interesting one, and this ties back into the not needing so many naps like I did in my old life, is the reduction of brain fog and the ability to concentrate and think a lot more clearly. Think about this, guys, and what I've said before to people is nutrition is kind of like software and your body is the hardware. So think of nutrition being an operating system update for your computer, or alternatively some malware like a virus. Think of your body as the laptop, the computer. Food is essentially software. So we could take processed foods, junk foods, tons of animal products, foods that are high in processed seed oils, sugars, those types of things. That is like putting malware onto your laptop. What's going to happen? It's going to slow down, it's going to crash, it's not going to operate properly. That is literally what you think and feel when you are in a place where you're not putting good nutrition into your system. Alternatively, a whole food plant-based diet, rich in different antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, different colors, a diverse range of nutrient rotation with your proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. That's representative of like an operating system update. What happens when you get that? Your system runs smoother. There's less buffering, there's less crashing. I've noticed, as someone who used to suffer with ADHD and was on Ritalin for over 10 years and now medication free for over 10 years, I will tell you that I can hyper-focus better than most people in an entire day. I will get done more in 3 to 4 hours than what most people get done in an 8 to 10 hour window. Literally because of the nutrition and the fuel that I put in my system. So when you're thinking about veganism and this way of living, don't just think about it from a perspective of muscles and abs and fat loss. Think of it from a perspective of performance. How can you increase your performance so you can do more? You can have more of an impact. You can be more clinical and precise with everything in your life that you want to achieve, because all those ROIs transfer over to just a better quality of life. And the beauty is, guys, that if you do what I'm telling you in terms of whole food plant-based diet, colors, and lots of nutrient rotation, the byproduct is the optimal body composition anyway. So I definitely noticed there was a massive improvement in my ability to concentrate and focus, especially as someone who had suffered with learning disabilities in the past. Now, the next point, and I don't know about you guys, but is slower aging. Now, what I mean by this is I've noticed that a lot of guys my age, 37 at the time of doing this recording, a lot of guys my age, they look like they're in their 40s and 50s. They definitely do not look their age. They definitely don't look younger. Now, obviously, I recognize that there's more to this than just diet. There's stress on your life. There's lifestyle circumstances, alcohol, smoking, drugs, you name it. There's a lot of different variables, right? And obviously genetics play a role in this too. But I will tell you that I've definitely noticed that with myself and with a lot of my clients that have done this longer term, there definitely seems to be a more youthful vibrancy to people than if you're just eating a conventional diet. Now, I think, again, coming back to some of the points that I've made in the previous pillars that I've touched on, I think a big part of why this is because when you're adding in more nutrient-dense foods, things that have a lot of different vitamins and minerals in them, from magnesium to selenium to folate to your omega-3s, all the different things that actually drive metabolic processes in the body, your body is able to regenerate cells. It's able to recover. All those foods that you're basically putting in is the substrate that your body is then using to repair and rebuild. And so from that perspective, you literally are what you eat. You are what you absorb. And so from that perspective, I found that slowing down aging processes and feeling and looking more youthful, not just looking more youthful, but feeling more youthful, not having aches and pains, not feeling all jacked up and old and having all the creakiness that a lot of people experience when they come into their 30s, 40s, and 50s. So that has been a huge advantage for me. So again, I am a big proponent, and I really focus on getting quality plant-based omega-3s into my diet. So I use Clean Machine ahi flour omega-3s, for example. I add a lot of hemp seed to my smoothie bowls, to my meals. I double up on those things. So I'm getting ample amounts of omega-3s. And that's not just good for, heart health, skin health, those types of things. That's good for brain function and hormone profiles as well. One of the other things that I noticed, guys, was this feeling like I'm not always dieting. I don't know if you guys have felt this before, but especially when you come into fitness and you're wanting to transform and change your body, there's this mindset that can happen where you're constantly feeling like you're counting macros, weighing foods, tracking everything. You're in that fitness grind. And for a lot of people, they just can't wait for it to end, right? Like we relapse, we yo-yo diet, we go back and forth, we do challenges, and then we get fat, and then we do another challenge, and we get fit, and then we get fat again. And it's like this never-ending cycle. And I know that for me, when I first coming into veganism, this was kind of like what I would do. So I would diet down for pictures or for videos, and not aggressively, but just enough that I would feel uncomfortable. I felt a bit tired and wore out, and I would get cravings, and I would constantly be fighting myself. And even when I came into veganism, there was a learning process with this. It wasn't like I just came in and I just felt full and satiated all the time and I felt amazing. I had to go through learning curves. And most people, when they come into this way of living, they make a lot of mistakes inadvertently because they either don't get the help that they need, or they're not troubleshooting properly, and they just give up at the first sign of a challenge. And so had I not been persistent and troubleshooted, I would have felt that sort of energy dips because I didn't really know what to eat at the time, and I was playing around with everything. But one of the positive things that I noticed once I refined things and once I optimized things for me was this feeling of like, I don't feel like I'm dieting anymore. I don't count calories. I don't weigh foods. I don't track anything anymore. It's purely intuitive, and I actually teach these intuitive processes to our students based off biofeedback. So your biofeedback is going to be things like your hunger and cravings, energy levels, your digestion. Are you getting bloated? How is your sleep? How is your strength in the gym? What does your recovery feel like? Are you getting any rashes or breakouts or pimples or anything that's indicative of that something's happening internally? This stuff, guys, I find is more useful than just counting calories and tracking and weighing things. So I found that through this process of self-discovery, I was able to get to a place now where I can eat intuitively, maintain the physique I have all year, and I don't feel like I'm dieting. Now that does sound like a utopia. People will be like, oh dude, like I can't even imagine what that feels like, right? I couldn't have imagined that a few years ago, but I'm telling you that when you stay the course and give yourself time to troubleshoot through this process, you can come out the other end and it can feel amazing. One reason, or one tip I could give you in terms of how can you get to this place is to make sure that when you first start this process, you eat enough calories to begin with. Usually if you're trying to strip too many calories down because you want that quick fat loss, you're going to feel impaired, you're going to feel energy dips, you're going to feel suboptimal because you're in too much of a caloric deficit. The other thing is make sure that you bulk your meals up. And this is probably the thing that helped me the most is I love big, voluminous sized meals. And so I add in a lot of greens, a lot of different types of fibrous vegetables in there. Obviously your gut has to be able to handle this volume, so you have to acclimate, which is something that we teach. But with these large portions, I find that it does help keep me satiated more. Now everyone is different, you're gonna have to acclimate yourself. But the beauty of it, guys, is that I feel like I've been able to get to the point that I'm at now without the sense of dieting. And that was a huge thing for me. And it's a beautiful thing when you can see that replicated in people around you, like in our students, for example. So take home point, guys, add more fibrous vegetables, more volume into your meals to bulk them up more. And then this way, you can have those big portions and you can fill yourself up a bit more without necessarily loading up on too many calories, which is going to bring down your total caloric volume and then obviously give you a little bit of long-term sustainable fat loss as well. And the last point that I want to make here, guys, was I think that the other thing that is really important in this equation is your training. Most people either undertrain to the point where they don't do anything at all, and what happens is your body's a bit like a wind turbine. The more wind that you push through that turbine, the more it moves, the more energy it generates. And so your body is very similar in a way. So if you're undertraining, you're not creating enough wind to generate actual energy that your body can then use. Alternatively, some people go down the other end of the spectrum where they overtrain, they do too much volume, too many classes, too much endurance stuff. And so their body's in this constant state of breakdown. I was definitely probably guilty of overtraining. I was doing too much. And part of it was because I felt like in order to maintain my lean physique, I needed to train more. When in actuality, I needed to train more intentionally. I needed to have more progressive overload, more periodization in my training, but I needed to then consume less food, but it was more micronutrient dense food. And as a byproduct of that, that's resulted in the sort of optimization of energy levels without needing so many naps. Now guys, I want to caveat all this by just saying that everyone's process is different. What you will experience is going to be different than mine, but I want to tell you that you will never know what you could experience through this process until you begin. There have been so many other things that I've noticed. This video could be 2 hours long in terms of my recovery and growing and maintaining strength and having a more optimized sleep and all these other benefits, but I just wanted to give you some of the obvious ones. I've seen many students get off a raft of medications. They were on statins and blood pressure medications, stuff for high cholesterol, all kinds of things, get off a bunch of stuff. I've seen people's C reactive protein levels drop down below 1. Risk of cardiovascular events goes to almost 0. And so nutrition is such a foundational thing. And so the beautiful thing about all of this is that through this process of veganism, you can truly optimize yourself from the inside out. And just think to yourself, you know, obviously I do this for me, right? I do this because I want to be a better, healthier version for myself. But then I think to myself, how does that then enable me to show up for my family, my daughter, my wife, Lauren and Zia, and our students and you guys, right? I can do this stuff because I have the energy and I have the insight and I have the wisdom having walked this path. So I wanted to share that with you. I'm curious, if you're plant-based or vegan, both, whatever, however you distinguish yourself, what have been some of the benefits that you've experienced? Drop them below in the comments, because I'd love for people to go then from this video and go scrolling through the comments and see all the positive stuff, all the positive changes. Did you lose a bunch of weight? Have you transformed a huge aspect of your health? Maybe you healed yourself from cancer. There's a myriad of different stories that I've seen firsthand. So drop your story in the comments, guys. Anyway, guys, I hoped that you liked this video. I just wanted to share some stuff in terms of my own experience of the progression and the things I've noticed on a vegan plant-based diet, and give you a couple of little tips in the mix so you can go away and you can add these things into your own equation. Let me know if this was helpful. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Help us grow this channel. Help us get this information out. We appreciate all of you, and I will see you again next time.